Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Pei Vav in Bava Basra. We've been discussing the various methods of acquisition. The other day we said that Masira works in Rishus Harabim, handing over the reins, or the hawser, or the rope, or whatever it is, of the elephant, the ship, whatever it is. Works Rishus Harabim, or a chutzner that nobody has Rishus in, neither the buyer or the seller. Mashicha works when you pull it into your own Rishus or into a semi-private area like a simter where you have Rishus, or an area that you are a partner in. Hagbal works everywhere, and we said already. Rashbam pointed out in Peidal and Rabeis that Mashicha only is valid when you can't do lifting. Hagbal is the preferred method. If it's something that could be lifted, a loaf of bread, a box of tissues, then that's the preferred method. Then you don't use Mashicha or anything else. Okay, that's what we said the other day. Now we're going to talk about that some more. Tanan Hasam. We're about 12, 13 lines down on the page where we left off yesterday. Tanan Hasam. The Chasam Sheish L'Machrayas. This is a famous Mishnah that assets which have obligations, meaning karka, nadlan, real estate, niknim kesef shtar chazaka. They can be acquired either by money, but with a shtar, a bill of sale, or chazaka, demonstrating ownership. Not the chazaka of 3 years that we're talking about. That's a proof of purchase. This is talking about a demonstration of ownership. That's chazaka, putting a lock on it, putting a fence around it, knocking down the fence, showing ownership. V'shein l'machrayas, that things that have no obligation, meaning we're talking about metaltal and movables, ein nikne ela b'shicha, only are acquired with mashicha. So if you have an item that's metaltal, how do you acquire it? Obviously, you have to agree on a price. The seller has to want to sell it to you. The buyer has to want to buy it. How do you acquire it? You acquire it with pulling it, schlepping it on the ground, not lifting it. Okay, so the surah masno hashmaita. Now, in explaining this, you just said that movables are acquired with mashicha. Didn't we say it's hakbah? So we'll see. In the surah masno hashmaita mishmei Rav Chisda, the following qualification was learned in surah in the name of Rav Chisda. In Pumbedisa, the other famous Babylonian town, the yeshiva in Surah and Pumbedisa, one was from Surah, one was from Pumbedisa. Maslo mishmei Rav Kana. They learned the name of Rav Kana. Apparently, I guess in Rav Kana was from Pumbedisa and Rav Chisda was from Surah. Some said it was said in the name of Rava in Pumbedisa. What was the qualification about that rule? This we say Mashiach works pulling it only if it's something that's not normally lifted. If it's something that can easily be lifted, that's the rule. If it's something that can be lifted, you can't make Mashiach by pulling it on the ground. It's something that can be lifted. You take a loaf of bread, you buy a loaf of bread at the store. How do you acquire it? By lifting it. And we said lifting it works everywhere, even in the rishus of the seller. Yes, we held discussion. If I put it in the receptacle in the container of the buyer and it's in the seller's rishus, does that work? And we pretty much came out that it doesn't work. But if I lifted it, that works everywhere. And if something can be lifted, you can't do mashiach on it. That's what was the qualification about this. But now we're going to discuss that. Is that really true that mashiach only works if you can't lift it? Yosef Abai was sitting with Kamala Shmaita and repeated that memra that was said in the name of Rava, that if you can lift it, you can't use mashiach as an acquisition method. Listen to this famous case. More in Shabbos, right? We had it in many places. It's from Shabbos. Let's see, where is it from? He says Gimel. There's the Dalet. Yeah, Gemara in Shabbos is brought down. It's also the following question. I go on to kiss b'Shabbos. If you steal a wallet on Shabbos, now what are you chayav for? For stealing it, right? You have to pay. You get back. Now going means there's also, if it's a burglary, it didn't say gozo. He burgled it, which means he'd have to pay back double if he's found with Adam, etc. Okay, so he steals it on Shabbos, but when he takes it out of the possession of the buyer, he carries it home with him, he's chayav for carrying on Shabbos, assuming there was no Erev, right? He carries his ram. So we have a problem. He's chayav misa for carrying it. He's chayav just to pay back or to pay back double if it's a burglary, paying money. You're putter on the money. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're absolved of returning it, but Bezin cannot be mechayiv you to pay back the money or pay back double because you're chayiv misa. So I go to kiss b'Shabbos, but if you steal on Shabbos, you know what? You are chayiv to pay back. Didn't I just say you don't have to pay back? When don't you have to pay it back? If the Isser of Shabbos the capital case that you're chayiv for was exactly, you were over at the same split second that you stole the money. But over here, going to kiss b'Shabbos, you're chayiv. Why? Shekfar is chayiv b'geneva kodem shel de'yisur Shabbos. When are you chayiv for stealing the kiss? As soon as you picked it up. I broke into your house. I picked up your wallet, and I'm chayiv for stealing it right then because I picked it up. When am I chayiv for Shabbos? Only when I move it from your premises into Rosh Hashanah, 2 different times. So I'm chayiv for both. I'm first chayiv for the money, then I'm chayiv for it. So he says, I go on and kiss b'Shabbos, chayiv shekfar is chayiv b'geneva kodem shel de'yisur Shabbos. 2 separate things because I lifted it. Let's say though, I dragged your wallet out of the house. Now, when I dragged it out, I didn't pick it up. I dragged it, Mashiach. I dragged it out. When did I acquire it? When I took it out of your possession into Rosh Hashanah, or into a Chatzar Sheina Shashneim, or into a Simta. When I took it out of your possession, technically Mashiach doesn't work in Rosh Hashanah, we said, right? So it works, let's say, in a Simta, private area, semi-private area, or I put it into my own yard. Maybe I was your next door neighbor and I put it there. But if that would be Rosh Hashanah, you're not really chayav on Shabbos. The Raisa, Rosh Hashanah is the only drop on it, right? If we have 2 neighboring backyards and I take it from one yard into another, that's not chayav on Shabbos for that, Raisa. Okay, but Hayu Megar V'Yotze, if I schlepped it out, I dragged it out, Megar V'Yotze, I kept dragging. Potzer, I'm potzer for paying for it. Why? Sharei Isser Shabbos V'Geneva Bon Kecha. Because when am I chayav for Shabbos? When I dragged it out of your possession into Rosh Hashanah or into a Simta, let's say, that's when I stole it. That's also when I stole it. I stole it, and I didn't lift it up. I dragged it out. So if I dragged it out, I didn't pick it up. So I'm chayav for Geneva and Aveda, for Geneva, at the same time that I'm chayav for Shabbos. So then I'm potter for paying. Bezin can't be mechayiv to pay back the money. Now wait a minute though. If I dragged it out, what do you say? I'm over on Shabbos when I dragged it out of your possession, and I'm also acquire it when I dragged it out of your possession. How do I acquire it? If it's a wallet, I have to pick it up. We just said that metalton and mashicha. When is that? If you can't lift it, if something gets lifted, it has to be lifted. You can't schlep it out. Or he kissed the barak bawul. A wallet or something can be lifted up. You see, it's still acquired with mashicha. So that was the question Rav Bar Masna posed to Abaya, who repeated the memra of Rava, his colleague, or in the name of Rav Kana, that metalton only is nikna b'mashicha if you can't lift it, but if you can lift it, you can only acquire it with lifting. Amalei b'misna. No, here the wallet wasn't a plain wallet. The wallet had a string, had a cord attached to it. So I schlepped it out that way. So what? I know I'm also talking about some wallets have a cord, like a purse, a lady's purse usually has a strap with it or something, right? So I schlepped it out that way. Either way, so what's the difference? Either way, it's something can be lifted. Amalei, no. The media de boy misna. I'm saying, speaking about something, it's not a little wallet, it's a heavy wallet. Some of these women have gigantic purses that can't be lifted. They have to put it on a 2-wheeler, and they walk around with it like a shopping basket, right? So that's what we're speaking. We're talking about, that's your answer. Technically, if it's a wallet that can be lifted up, you can't acquire it by schlepping it, by pulling it. You have to lift it up. Here it's speaking about a case where it's a very heavy wallet, or call it a little safe, or a very big purse. So again, we stay with the idea that if you can lift it, you can only acquire it with lifting. Mashiach only works on something that can't be lifted. Tashma, let's see another case. Rishus mocher lo kana shibyan shaysen meshusa. Where do we have this case? Yesterday, in the brayse that we brought on yesterday, Tosefta, on Pei Hey Amar Aleph. It said over there. Remember, there's 4 different levels. If they borrow the measuring cup, the buyer and the seller borrowed it from somebody else, or leased it from somebody else. So it depends. If it's full, then it belongs to the lokeach. The stuff inside it is a kinyan. If it's not full, it still belongs to the seller. Okay, that's only if the measuring receptacle did not belong to either one of them. But if it belonged to one of them, and also right, and it belonged to one of them, then it's, if it's the mokers, it's all his. If it's the buyers, as soon as anything goes in there, goes to him. So he said, "B'shus mocher lo kana." Then the Bryce went on to say, if it's just the mocher, the buyer doesn't get it, even if the container is fully, the measuring container is full, he doesn't acquire it until he lifts it up. When does the seller, if you're measuring the stuff out in a seller's measuring cup, the seller is selling him some wheat or whatever, seeds, whatever he's selling him, and he uses a measuring cup, and the measuring cup belongs to the seller. even if it's full, the buyer doesn't acquire it yet. And we're talking about, right, in the Rishus of the Mocher. It's in the Rishus of the Mocher. So we said it could be even if it's the Lokeach, it could be it doesn't work there, right? We debated, is the receptacle belong to the Mocher, even if it belongs to the Lokeach, and if it's in the Rishus of the Mocher, the receptacle we said is batel to the Rishus, and it's in the Mocher's Rishus until the buyer lifts it up. Said, look at those words. Ad she'ad biena, o ad she'isem so. So the measuring, even if it's full, the buyer does not acquire it until he lifts up the measuring cup or he pulls it out of the rishus. Wait a minute. We just said that any item, if it's light enough to be picked up, you got to pick it up. If it's too heavy, you pull it. So how could you say over here, this measuring cup, he acquires what's in the measuring cup, either when he lifts it or when he pulls it out? It's either or. If it's light enough to be picked up, you got to pick it up. How can you say pull it? And if it's heavy enough, then you shouldn't be able. Then you don't have to lift it up at all. So what do you mean? Biena till you lift it up, or until you take it out of the rishus? How does that work? That's our Gemara here on page 5 lines from down on page. Tashma b'shus mocher elokana sheikena or sheyetzem mishuso alma midi debarak. It's capable of being picked up because they say unless you pick it up, even though it's capable of being picked up, you say. When does the buyer get it? When he either lifts it or he pulls it out. That means it's capable of being lifted up, and yet he can still pull it out also. Rav Nachman Yitzchak, what's done? Can I know they're two separate cases? We say over here, the buyer gets it either when he lifts it or when he pulls it out. Not the exact same measure, not the same physical item. If it's light enough to be picked up, then he's got to pick it up. If it's too heavy, then he pulls it out. That's what he means. It's two different cases. Something that's capable of being picked up, you pick it up. It's midi debar mashicha, something that needs to be pulled because it's too heavy. You have to make mashicha there too. So again, we stay with our argument that anything that can be lifted has to be lifted. Tashma, another case. Hamocher peres lechavero. Which case is this? This is the Mishnah that we had back on Pei Dal and Amid Beis. If you sell peres to somebody else, if you made mashicha and he didn't measure it after they've agreed on the price, right? I'm going to sell it to you for $5 a kilo. Okay, I said, I'll take this bunch over here, and I made mashicha. I didn't measure it out yet. We'll measure it out later, and we'll see how much it was. I'll owe you proportionally $5 a kilo. Fine. But it says over here, moshach, and I pulled them, even though I didn't measure it out, but we agreed on a price. I made a kinyan, mashicha. Okay. You could lift up. You go into a fruit store, you buy some fruits, you can lift it up. Why does that have to be pulled on the ground? It says even though it's capable of being lifted up, you still require mashiach. So again, here's another proof against what we said. We said something can be lifted up, has to be lifted up, has to be picked up. You can't do mashiach. Here it's masha, it's peiros. Why can't you lift it up? And still you say you see that you require with mashiach. It says we're talking about large bags, sacks, large sacks of potatoes or fruits or whatever. Large sacks, too heavy to lift up. Therefore, mashiach works. If that's the case, look at the seifa. The seifa of that same the seifa of that Mishnah, the very end of the Mishnah, it says over there. What about if you buy flax? The Mishnah said there, halokech pishton. If you buy flax, mechavero hareza lokana, you don't cut until you move it from place to place. Meaning you lifted it up. You have to lift it up. It doesn't have to do a certain place. It normally is. You take it and you put it somewhere else. Lokana That's what the Mishnah said. It says makom lamakom. He has on the words makom zel makom acher. Fine. Right. So what do you see? You got to lift it up. So if you're saying you're talking about heavy, large bags, that's why when it comes to peiros, you can't lift it. You pull it. So what about the flax? Why can't you put? Why do you say over there you have to lift it up? You have to. If you buy flax, when do you caught it? When you lifted it up, you picked it up and put it someplace else. Why? If you're talking about large bags, you should be able to pull it. You can't lift it. The answer is no. Can't you also put flax in large bags? Just like the fruits can be in large bags and you do mashicha, the flax should also be in large bags and you do mashicha, not lift it up. There's no shiny pishtan the mishnamin. Flax is different because it slips away. What do we mean it slips away? So Rashbam in his preferred pshat says that pishtan is very slippery. Flax is slippery and it's hard to put them in large bundles or large bags. And you Therefore, you have to lift it. You can't put it in large bags. He brings out Rav Meir Shapiro says a different reason that flax, if you try to pull it, and if you try to pull it or put it in large bags, it'll come apart. It'll disassemble, right? It'll break apart. That's what means. In other words, it's not practical. Fruits can be put in a large bag, flax not, and that's why flax has to be lifted up. So we stay with that argument. Another case that we're going to ask on Tashma, another famous case, Behemagasa, a large animal like a cow or a horse or a donkey, Niktas Masira. How do you acquire it? By handing over the reins. Right. Hadaka, a small animal like a goat or a lamb, you lift it up. Rav Shimon. That's what Rav Shimon say. Rav Shimon Elazar. They say you have to lift it up. A small animal, you have to lift it up. Chacham say Behemagasa b'Mashiach. Behemagasa was from Mashiach. Now, how could the Chacham say that a small animal can be pulled by Behemagasa the Barak Boy? Just like Rav Shimon ben Elazar and Rav Meir say, you're capable of lifting up a small animal, right? So why did you have to lift? Why do you say you pull it? The kani Mashiach, and still you acquire Mashiach, even though it's capable of being lifted up. The answer is shiny behema the sarcha. Behema is different. Why? Because it clings to the ground. If you try to lift some animals, like a small animal, if you try to lift it, it'll dig its feet into the ground. It'll be hard to lift. So again, it's something that's hard to lift. And Neflacham say you can be caught with Mashiach. That could do also, right? Exactly. It'll fight being lifted up sometimes, right? Therefore, so Rav Meir and Shimon still say, you're capable of lifting it up. You could lift it up. But the Chum say that you could do Mashiach. Yeah, Mashiach is only when you can't do Akbar. In this case, it would be difficult to do Akbar because the animal will remain its place. Now we come to another memra of something, Moshe, that you brought up yesterday. If you agree on a fixed amount, what do we mean? Rabbi Shmuel Damar Tabayu. Famous case, we had this before also, right? We had him Bamatzia, he points out over here, we'll have it later on. Kur b'shloshim. A kur is a large amount, a large volume of grain. And how much is that? 30 saw, right? That's a large amount. Now, let's say he says, Kur b'shloshim mochelecha. I'm selling you a whole kur for 30 sela, 30, let's call it dollars, for $30. I'm selling you the whole thing. And then he starts measuring it out. Even if he's measured out 26, 27, 28, 29, what did I say? A saw. There's 30 saw, mixing up 30 saw in a kur, and he's selling it for $30. Okay, kur b'shloshim doesn't mean the shloshim here is the amount of money, it's the sela or the dollar. So he says, I'm selling you a whole kur for $30. As he measures out the 30 saw, which comprise the kur, as he measures it out, and the guy changes his mind, he didn't give it to him yet, right? It's one big transaction. So he could change his mind at the end and say, I changed my mind, I don't want to do it, right? Let's say the money didn't transact yet, they didn't hand over the money, so he's not going to get a mishapara either, but this is movables. So he says, you can go back on the deal. Either one can go back on the deal. It's not final until he measures the whole thing out. Let's say, though, he says, kur b'shloshim, I'm selling you the whole kur of 30 saw for $30. Saw b'sela. Each 1/30th part of the kur goes for $1. I'm selling you 30 saw for $30. Each saw goes for sell. That means he's individualizing each one. So if I say I'm selling you a saw for $1 and I measured out 20, okay, that's it. You measured it out, you acquired it, and that's it. You lifted it up, it's done. It's like $1 for each one, $1 for each saw. No. Well, he's going to have to. It's metal. He's going to lift it up. Yeah. He's going to lift it up. Now, assuming that it's liftable. If it's something that's very heavy, let's say he's selling a metal or something, then he couldn't. Then he'd do Mashiach or Masira if it's too heavy. Okay. So Kur b'shloshim saw b'stein mechelcha rishon kana. As he measured out each saw, he acquires it. Right. Okay. So that's what Rav and Shmuel said. That if you do it as one big transaction, I'm selling you a whole kur for $30. Then until the whole kur is measured out, the sale's not final. If he says a kur for $30, but each saw is the 30th of a kur for $1, then as each saw is measured out, he acquires it. Tashma. Okay, wait a minute. What again, that brisa that we had on yesterday's Amanal say, and pay Amanal, Tashma, if the measuring cup belonged to one of them, Rishon Kana. If it was the mochers, obviously it hasn't been sold yet. If the lokech, let's say, owned the measuring cup, again the brisa said, Im haya Rishon Kana. And we said, what is it speaking about? We came out, that's really speaking about, again, a simta or a chatzah she'ein shneim. In other words, it wasn't in the mocher's rishus or lokech's rishus, but the receptacle, the measuring cup, belonged, let's say, to lokech. So as soon as he gets one of them, as soon as each one came in, even though it's not full. So over here we just said, if I sell you, again, Moshe, you asked us yesterday, if I sell you a whole core for 30 saw, for $30, a whole core for $38, and you measured out a half or 3/4 or even 9/10 or 99% of the core, but I didn't finish, so it's not a sale. Here, though, the brisa mentioned, that brisa said that Tosefta mentioned, that if it belonged to the lokeach, if the measuring cup belongs to the lokeach, as it came in there, he acquired it, even though it hasn't been completed yet. So you don't have to finish the whole core. Says Gemara and Chami, go to Amrle in Bishnei Masar Sloim Log Besela Ani Mochachav. There it's speaking about, in that case, it's talking about liquid measure. It's the same idea though. A hin is also a volume measure. It's usually for liquids. A hin is for $12. Log Besela. A hin has 12 log. Right? We say revius, like we say revius a log in terms of kiddush or whatever you use revius a log. That's a quarter of a log, and there's 12 log in a hin. So he told them again. It's speaking about. He didn't say kur besela. It's like he said kur besela saw a kur b'shloshim saw besela. As if he said, yeah, I'm selling the whole kur for 30. Each individual saw goes for $1. So here too, in that price where he says if the measuring cup belonged to the lokeach, as he poured it in, he acquires it automatically. He doesn't wait for the whole thing. You know why? Because there he said, I'm selling you a hin, 12 log for $12, each log for $1. So again, it's like he individualized it. He made it individual. Each log goes for $1. That's why he was calling it, right? Right. So that's what it means. It's as if he said, he gave an example before we were talking about, here in this case, Rav Shapiro, we're talking about a core, usually it's dry measure, a core of 30 saw for $30. So did he say a core for $30, or did he say a core for $30, each saw goes for $1? So we asked, if that's the case, how do you say over there as it goes into the measuring cup of Lekech, he acquires each one individually? Because that's as if he said saw for $1. Because he said, for example, there he's talking about liquid measure. He says that he said, I'm selling you a hin for $12, and each load goes for $1. I'm selling you. That in the Gemara at the bottom, 3 lines from down on the page, shnasos hayu behin. In the Beis Hamikdash, right? In the Beis Hamikdash, when they measured out the libations that were used to accompany most karbanos, it says over there were markings on the hin. They had a measuring. Think of a measuring cup, right? A liquid that they use for a liquid, and the measuring cup has a hin, and there's markings on it for each lobe, right? There's 12 lobe in a hin, so there's markings on it. Now the markings are not simply like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Rashbam points out, as we say, Michael, what do we say? We say chatzi hahin lapar ushlishi sahin lo ayo or vi sahin la keves yoyin. So when they had this hin which had 12 for a keves, it was marked 1/4 of it, right? For an ayo, you needed a third, right? A third of it, a third which would be 4/12, right? The other one would be 3/12, would be a quarter. 4/12 would be a third, and then for a chatzi ahin lapar would be a half a hin. That would be half of it. Would be at 6/12, right? So they had these markings in the Beis Hamikdash's measuring cup. They had it, you have pictures, So you have it was marked. This is for the ayo. This is the bottom one is for the keves, right, for the lamb. The next one marked at a third was for the ayo, and then at the halfway mark, marked it for a par, for an ox, so a male cow. So that as they brought the carbon, it was marked. So just like they were there in the Beis Hamikdash, they had markings on it. Here too, the guy had markings on it there were 12 markings, let's say, one for each lobe that's in the hin. The hin is 12 lobe. They were marked 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 other markings on it. So in that case, as if he said, I'm selling you the whole hin for $12 or $1 per load. So again, it's individualized. Okay. So we say that's what Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel said if you sell the whole core for $30, it's not a deal until it's all filled up. So you get all 30 saw in the core. Tashma, another case, which is a little bit far out, but he wants to compare it. Hasocher sapoil, you hire workers. Now workers looking for work. However, it's not harvesting season yet. So he hires a worker. He says, listen, I'll hire you now, but the work will be in the harvesting season in 6 months. So what I'll do is hayom bediner. I'm going to work in dinner. Hayom bediner means dinner per yom. I'll give you a dinner per yom in the harvesting season. Now, but I'm giving you the money now. And this way you have the money now. And in 6 months, you'll do the work. Now, if he hired himself out in 6 months at the harvesting season, he would get 4 times that rate. Let's call it $1, a dinar, $1, let's say. He'd get $4 an hour, or $4 a day. Right? Now he says that I'll take $1 a day if you give me the money now. Give me $30 now, and I'll work a month in the summer and the harvesting season. Right? The harvesting season, he would get $4 a day, $120 for the season, for the month. Now he's willing to take $30 because he gets the money now. Okay, so he says, you know what? Ulagor Yafasela. At the harvesting season, he's worth a sela a day. That's $4, 4 dinars or $4 a day. Also, he can't do that. Looks like rebit, right? I'm the worker. I'm giving you $4 of work, $4 a day of work in the summertime. That's what the going rate is in the summertime. But I'm willing to mark it down to $1 a day, right? Because you're giving me the money now. Looks like rebit. I'm giving you more back later on. Since you gave me the money now, it's like you lent me the money now. I'll give it back to you 4 times that later on. It looks like rebit. Is it really rebit though, right? So of course not. It's not a loan, not even a sale, right? But we'll see. Okay, so you can't do that. You can't do things that way because it looks like he's paying you back more. I'm giving you $4. If you give me $30 now, I'll give you $120 of work later on. That looks like rebit. Avol. However, at the end of the first line on Peizayin, im socher me'ayom, he's hired him from today, b'dina liyom. He's paying him today. I'm hiring you now for the whole season, $1 a day, and you have to work from now all the way into the harvesting season. Even though at the harvesting season you're worth $4 a day, but if you start working now, so then it's like one big deal. It's like you hire a rabbi or a balkore. You're not just hiring him for Shabbos or whatever. Even though they only work on Shabbos, but you're hiring him for the whole time. So it's like a schar globali, as they say, right? It's a what do we call that in English? It's a flat rate for the whole season. You're getting paid your salary. You're not working by the hour, right? So avalim sachar me'ayom, but even though he's paying him $30, he's paying him the same $1 a day, but he's starting to work now. Avalim sachar me'ayom, but ulagoran, even though later on at the harvesting season, Yafasela, that's mutter. Now, wait a minute. If you say, like what that he said, if you say, Rav and Shmuel say that if you say a kur for 30, right? But if you say kur b'shloshim saw b'sela, each amount, each saw goes for $1. So here too. Why is it any better in the last case? When he said, I hire you from right now, right? I'm going to give you work from now through the harvesting season. I'm going to give you $1 a day, even though later on you're worth more. But each day is an individual thing. It's $1 for today, $1 for tomorrow. So when it comes to the harvesting season, and then he has to still work for the $1 per day. Why is he working for the $1 per day? Because he got the money earlier on, even though later on he can get $4 a day. So it'd be the same thing. Each one is an individual sale, so to speak. Each saw is an individual sale. Each $1 that he gets separates it, and it's not like I'm working. I'm getting a general salary for the whole year, and you don't divide it up. No, I still say I'm giving you $1 a day and you can work from today through the harvesting season. Yeah, but it's $1 a day. Each day is individual, just like each saw is $1, right? Or each load is $1. The same thing. Each day is $1. So when it comes to the harvesting season, the money that you got now, the money you got in advance of $1 per day, is still cheating. He's still giving back $4 a day of work later on for what he did for the money that he got now. What's the difference if he started working now, or if he started working later? Either way, it's each day is individual. So why do we say it's mutter? So why do you say in the second case when he started working today, it's mutter? It's the same thing as I'm paying you back more because I had use of the money until now. What's it? Amarava betizbra. Let me ask you a kasha. So zula b'chirs mi aser. Is it aser to lower my salary to get more later on? If you pay me now in advance, I'll do the work later on. Even though later on, if you pay me at the end, it's worth more money. But if you pay me in advance, I'll take less. Sofer can't do that. It's not a loan. It's not even a sale. It's not even a sale. He wants to guarantee himself of a job, right? He's willing to say, look, in the summertime there'll be a lot of people working here. If you hire me right now. Pay me now and I'll work later on. But then he can do that. That's not ribis at all. Zilzule lowering the price was me also. So if that's the case, why do you say that in the first case it's usher? We said if I hire you now, if we make up a deal now, I'm going to give you $1 per day, but you're only going to work in the summer, not today. That's no good because it looks like rebid. And if you start working today, it doesn't look like ribit. What's the difference? Maisha, Reisha, Maisha, Sefer. Either way, it's not really ribit. It says Reisha, the loka of it bade. In the Reisha where he's not working with him right now, Mehash, the loka of it bade. He's not working for right now. Mechseki aganatali. Looks like he had money. Look, he's not working from right now, right? So what happened? I said you're going to work in the summer for 30 days. Here's $30 right now. Come back in 6 months when the harvesting season starts, and you're going to give me then $120 worth of work, $4 a day for the summer, right? I gave you the money now. Goodbye till the summer. Come back. It's like you're giving me. It looks like you're giving me ribbit. I gave you 30. You're giving me back 120. Safe in the second case, the government bad day where he's starting to work from right now. Well, it really is not ribbit in either case. But in the Seifa, where he's starting to work from today, okay, I'm paying you in advance. Start working right now. It doesn't look like ribbit. But in the ratio where he doesn't work now, I'm giving you the $30 now, and you're going to come back in the summer. You're not even working now. So that looks like I'm giving you $30 now and you're giving me back more money. That looks like ribit, and that is forbidden. Again, all these cases are not ribis d'oraisa. Even when it's a sale, it's not ribis d'oraisa, but it doesn't even look like that. It doesn't look like it at all, and that's mutter to do. All right, we'll pick it up from here from the 2 dots tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Have a good day, everybody. Kol tov.